An investigation team in the United States issued a press release on the 6th, claiming that they have finally solved the identity mystery of the Zodiac Killer, one of the most notorious and unsolved crimes in the United States. Zodiac Killer is a serial killer whose true identity is unknown. He committed crimes in the San Francisco Bay Area of California in the 1960s. He claimed to have murdered 37 victims and is believed to be involved in several other outstanding cases. Relevant units determined that the Zodiac Killer was involved in 5 murders between 1968 and 1969, and 2 attempted murders. During the investigation of the Zodiac Killer serial homicide case, the newspaper media and the police received complex riddles and codes. The Zodiac Killer claimed that as long as he cracked the letter containing the code, his identity could be revealed, thereby taunting the authorities and creating intimidation, until finally he suddenly stopped contacting and disappeared. Sky News and Capitol Hill reported that the Casebreakers team of more than 40 experts, including former law enforcement investigators, reporters, and military intelligence officers, issued a press release claiming that they were convinced that the Zodiac Killer was Air Force veteran Gary Francis Post, who died in 2018. The Casebreaker team stated that after they unearthed forensic evidence and photos of the darkroom, they recognized him as the Zodiac Killer. In addition, some photos selected by the press release over the years show that Gary has scars on his forehead, which corresponds to a sketch of the Zodiac Killer. Jen Buchholz, a former U.S. Army counterintelligence agent and a member of the Casebreaker team, told Fox News that they also discovered that the decoded letters sent by the Zodiac Killer revealed that Gary was the murderer. In order to crack for these translocation anagrams, you must know Gary's full name. According to reports, the case solver team also believes that Gary will be responsible for the murder of 18-year-old college student Sherry Jo Bates. In response to the theory of the criminal investigator team, the San Francisco office of the FBI told the San Francisco Chronicle in a statement on the 6th that the Zodiac Killer incident has not yet been closed, and we currently have no new information to share. The San Francisco City Police Department also echoed the FBI's statement. So who is Gary Francis Post? Gary Francis Post was a U.S. Air Force veteran who came from the eastern area of California. He was 80 years old at the time of his death in 2018. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, the newspaper was contacted 6 years ago by a relative of Gary who said he lived in the town of Groveland. This relative accused Gary of being the Zodiac Killer and of having tried to kill him with a hammer. Gary's former daughter-in-law, Michelle Wynn, also accused him of being the serial killer, the paper said. Ms. Wynn said she had moved away from California to get away from threats posed by Gary. From successfully cracking the code last year to the investigation team finding the real culprit based on clues, it took more than half a century of hard work. Today we will analyze the Zodiac case in depth and understand the details of the case at that time. It started on December 20, 1968. 11 o'clock in the evening. Benicia, California. A remote 3-way intersection called Herman Lake Road. There was a homicide. The victims were 2 young lovers who drove here for a date. 17-year-old David Arthur Falday, lying outside the co-pilot door. 16-year-old Betty Lowe Jensen, lying a few meters away from the car. Both have fatal injuries. A few minutes after the incident was discovered by nearby residents and reported to the police. When the police arrived, David still breathes. Unfortunately, he died on the way to the hospital. The police couldn't get any clues from his mouth. Infer from the situation on site. The murderer probably got the 2 young people out of the car and then shot them. And Betty should have been shot to the ground while escaping, because apart from her head, she had multiple gunshot wounds on her back. At midnight on July 4, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau drove to a golf course in Vallejo's Blue Rock Springs, which was far from the last occurrence. The murder site on Herman Lake Road was only 4 kilometers away. When both of them were still sitting in the car, a car also drove to the place and stopped next to them. However, about 10 minutes later, the car drove back again and stopped behind the 2-person car. The killer got out of the car and walked to the co-pilot's door, holding a flashlight and a 9mm pistol in his hands. He first irradiated the victim with the strong light of a flashlight to make him blind for a short time, then fired several shots at the 2 victims. After that, he returned to the car. But all this is not over yet. When Michael couldn't help groaning because of the severe pain, the killer slowly returned to the car door, shot a few shots at the 2, and then drove away. At about 12:45 the next morning, a man reported to the Vallejo police station by phone and claimed responsibility for the attack. He also claimed that he was the murderer of the Herman Lake Road murder. The police tracked the phone and found that the killer was making a call from a phone booth on the side of the street. The phone booth was located on Quan Road and a gas station on the Tuolumne River. Farian was pronounced dead in the hospital, and Michael was rescued, even though he was shot in the cheek, neck, chest, etc. by the killer. No property was lost in both cases. The female victim was not sexually assaulted either. The murderer's behavior seems to be random without any motive. Michael's description of the murderer is about 1.8. Healthy and not fat, visually weighing 90 kilograms. Curly hair without glasses. And he also emphasized that this person has a big face. This is the first time the police have received a description of the murderer. The above are just the prologue of the case. 1 month later, August 1, 1969. The media received many mysterious letters one after another. The letter is handwritten and basically the same content. As soon as he came up, he said that he was the murderer of the previous 2 cases. In order to be convincing, he also listed some details that only the police know. At the end of the letter, the cross and concentric circle symbol appeared for the first time. At the same time, attach a ciphertext to each letter. The ciphertext is divided into 3 parts. Each part contains 136 password characters. 408 symbols in total. This is the famous 408 ciphertext. Soon later, the mysterious letter appeared again. In addition to describing more details of the crime. At the beginning of the letter he also wrote, "Dear editor, this is Zodiac talking. This is the first time the murderer used the name Zodiac when referring to himself. Since then the word Zodiac has been bound to this murderer." In the letter, Zodiac urged the police to unlock the ciphertext. It also implies that his information is contained in these ciphertexts. Unexpectedly, only 4 days after the ciphertext was announced, a couple, Donald Hardin and Betty Hardin, cracked the code. The content of the ciphertext is, "I like to kill because it's so fun. This is much more fun than hunting in the forest. Because of all the objects being hunted, people are the most dangerous prey. This gave me a very exciting experience. Even more enjoyable than being with a girl. And the most wonderful thing is, after I kill, I will be born again in heaven. Then those who are killed by me will become my slaves. I won't tell you my name. Because you will try to prevent me from getting more slaves." The reason why this ciphertext is so easy to be cracked. Because it uses a simple homophonic replacement encryption method. Unfortunately, there are only some meaningless nonsense in the ciphertext. And there is no useful information. On September 27, 1969, 2 students, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, were picnicking at Lake Berryessa. A white man, about 1.80 meter, weighing more than 77 kilograms, approached them wearing a black executioner's type hood with clip-on sunglasses over the eyeholes. He approached them with a gun. The hooded man claimed to be an escaped convict from a jail, where he had killed a guard and subsequently stolen a car, explaining that he now needed their car and money to travel to Mexico because the vehicle that he had been driving was too hot. The killer had brought pre-cut lengths of plastic clothesline and told Shepard to tie up Hartnell before he tied her up. The killer checked and tightened Hartnell's bonds after discovering that Shepard had bound Hartnell's hands loosely. Hartnell initially believed this event to be a bizarre robbery, but the man drew a knife and stabbed them both repeatedly, Hartnell suffering 6 and Shepard 10 wounds in the process. The killer then backed up to Knoxville Road, drew the cross circle symbol on Hartnell's car door with a black felt tip pen, and wrote beneath it, "Vallejo. December 20, 68. The 4th of July, 69. September 27, -69 to 6:30. By knife." At 7:40 p.m., the killer called the Napa County Sheriff's Office from a pay telephone to report this latest crime. The phone was found, still off the hook. Detectives were able to lift a still wet palm print from the telephone but were never able to match it to any suspect. After hearing the victim's screams for help, a man and his son who were fishing in a nearby cove discovered the victims and summoned help by contacting park rangers. Shepard was conscious when police arrived, providing him with a detailed description of the attacker. Hartnell and Shepard were taken to hospital. Shepard lapsed into a coma during transport and never regained consciousness. She died 2 days later, but Hartnell survived to recount his tale to the press. October 11, 1969. Presidio Heights in San Francisco. 9:55 in the evening. 29-year-old taxi driver Paul Lee Stein was killed in his car. He was carrying a passenger at the intersection of Mason and Gary. And write the words Washington and Maple Leaf in the destination column on the itinerary. But the car finally passed Maple Leaf Street and stopped on Cherry Street. Then Paul was killed there. Because the location of the crime is in the city, it's not too late. Across the street from the scene of the incident, a family is holding a party. 3 young people witnessed the whole process from the windows on the second floor. They said the murderer was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he tore off Paul's shirt and wiped the scene in the car. I wiped the door handles on both sides before leaving. Finally took away this piece of cloth. The police quickly received a call to the police. There happened to be 2 patrols near this block. After receiving the police, they rushed to the scene. The description of this person by the teenagers is very clear. It is basically the same as the description of the survivor before. And this most famous portrait is also based on their description. But this time the police operator made a fatal mistake. The message she conveyed to the patrol was, "The suspect is a black male." At that time, 2 patrolmen were on Cherry Street. They did meet a white man who resembled the description. But it was ruled out because of skin color problems. It wasn't until the patrol rushed to the scene that it was corrected to be white. The 2 hurriedly looked back, but the person was gone. This incident was also confirmed in Zodiac's letter later. At that time he did pass by 2 patrol officers. In other words, the person they met was Zodiac. Surprisingly, this time the police found a fingerprint with blood on the scene. But 2 days later, the Chronicle received a letter from Zodiac. The letter said he left a false clue on purpose. Let the police find him all over the city. A piece of cloth torn off Paul's shirt was attached to the letter. This case is also officially recognized the last case related to Zodiac killer. There is also a suspected Zodiac killer case late at night on March 22, 1970. Catherine Jones drove from San Bernardino to Petaluma to visit her mother. She was 7 months pregnant, with a 10-month-old daughter beside her. When passing through the city of Modesto near Highway 132, a car came from behind, honking her horn and flashing the lights. So she parked the car on the side of the road. A man got off the car and told her, "The rear right of her car is shaking. It should be that the wheel screws are loose." So I took the initiative to help Catherine repair the car. As a result, this repair made the car completely unable to go. After the man discovered the situation, go back and say can take her to the service point to find someone to repair the car. So Catherine got in his car. But then the man became very weird. The car didn't stop even after passing several service stations. The car drove for more than an hour. Until Catherine caught a parking opportunity. Opened the car door, hugged the child and jumped down. Fortunately none of them were injured. And the man didn't mean to chase them. He just closed the car door silently and left. At the time, Catherine didn't know who the man who kidnapped her was. Until she was taken to the police station by kind people who passed by. There she noticed the portrait of Zodiac on the wall. She feels very similar to that man. Then she almost certainly told the police that they were the same person. Catherine's description of this man is basically the same as the Zodiac killer. And she also said that this person has military temperament. On November 8, 1969, the Zodiac killer sent another encrypted letter to the San Francisco Chronicle. This letter, called Z340, has not been cracked since it was sent. It was not cracked until December 2020, 51 years later, by David Oranchik, a software developer from Virginia, USA, and Jarl Van, a Belgian computer engineer. A team composed of Ike and Australian mathematician Sam Blake decrypted it. The message is as follows. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. Because I now have enough slaves to work for me where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise death." Zodiac has suspended mailing letters since 1971. Until 1974, the San Francisco Chronicle received what is believed to be the last letter from Zodiac. In the letter he actually commented on the movie Exorcist and satirized the film as the best comedy. At the end of the letter it says ME37. It should mean that he has completed the last action. And the number of his victims has accumulated to 37. Since then the Zodiac killer has disappeared. As for why Zodiac suddenly stopped acting, maybe because, like he said, already have enough slaves in heaven. Or maybe he has gone to heaven. Although the police have not yet officially confirmed that Gary is a Zodiac killer. Let's take a look at the photos taken a few weeks before Gary's death. Looking at this kind old man, it's really hard to believe that the killer is such an ordinary person. Do you think he is a killer? Welcome to leave a message below to tell us. Thanks for watching.